today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a simple inventory system that also uses lists to total up the amount of your purchase in your Scratch program. Let's get started. So I'll put a link in the description below that will give you access to the graphics that you need. You're going to need the ramen graphic, the burrito graphic, the checkout button, and also the not available graphic. So I'll assume you're going to go grab and download those right now. And you're back. Let's talk about what's happening here. So when I hit the green flag and start it up, you can see we've got 2 ramens and 2 burritos left in our fake super basic vending machine, and our total is 0. If I click on the ramen 2 times, ramen is now 0, and the costume changes to say not available. If you look at our lists, the item list has populated with the 2 ramens that I ordered and their prices. And if I click checkout now, the total ends up being $6. If I start over and I get all the burritos and all the ramen, I cleaned that vending machine out. I have 0 values for my burrito and ramen. And if I click checkout, I got $18 worth of tasty food. How do we do this? Well, let's begin, friends. So we will start with setting up the sprites. So like I said, my dream is by now you've downloaded those images that you need, and we're going to get started. So first thing we'll do is delete the cat sprite. Goodbye, cat. And we'll say yes to that, and let us upload our sprites. So we'll go to upload sprite, and we're going to grab the burrito, and we will grab the ramen, and let's set those up. For each of those, let's make the size 40. If you want to do something different, feel free. It's your program. And we'll get those set up. We'll arrange them on our stage. Let's go grab our checkout button. And we'll set that up about there. Now, the not available, I'm not going to make that a separate sprite. I am going to make it a costume for both the ramen and the burrito. So let's click on the ramen sprite, go over to costumes in the top left, hover over the cat in the lower left, go to upload costume, and grab not available. Awesome. Let's do the same for burrito. We'll stay in the costume section. We will go and we will upload our costume for not available. Okay. So both of these now are starting off as not available. Let's switch that costume back to showing the products, the ramen or the burrito. So very cool. We got that going on. Next thing we need to do is we need to give ourselves some variables. So let's switch back to the code view and let's go to variables. Click on make a variable, and we're going to make a variable called burrito. We're going to make a variable called ramen. These two are going to keep track of how much of these items we have left. Because we'll be using lists, we need to make a variable called item index that will help the program count through the list or iterate through the list to give us a total. And we also need a variable called total because we want to total up the amount that's being purchased. So we made our 4 variables: burrito, item index, ramen, and total. Go ahead and do that for yourself. Awesome. Now we need to make some lists. So we will stay in the variables section, look for the make a list button, And we'll make a list called item that will hold the name of the item that we've bought. And we'll make a list called price that will hold the price of the item. And for now, while we're building this out, let's just drag those to where we can see them. Once the program is done, we'll hide some variables, we'll hide some lists. But for now, as we're programming, it's helpful to see them all. So we've got those set up. Let's set up the behavior for what happens when the program starts. So let's click on the ramen. Let's go over to events, grab a when green flag clicked, and we are going to go to variables. We're on ramen, but it really doesn't matter, but we're on ramen. And so we're going to set the value of ramen to how many we start off with. So we'll say we start off with 2. And then we're going to go to looks, and we're going to, when we start, switch the costume to ramen. That way, when we click the green flag, it resets itself. Let's do the same thing for burrito. So we'll do the same, grab our when green flag clicked, go to variables. We'll give ourselves 2 burritos, and we'll go to looks, and we will switch the costume when the game starts to the burrito. That way the game resets itself, basically. The program resets itself. So that's what we want. Okay, let's switch back to ramen. So now what we need to do is when this sprite is clicked, we want to add the values to the lists, and also we want to subtract one of our burritos, right? Because each time somebody buys one, that's one less that's in our vending machine. Let's do it. So we'll go to events, go to when this sprite is clicked, and let's get the list population out of the way first. So when this sprite is clicked, we're going to go to variables and look down in our list section. We've got our 2 lists that we already made, item and price. So we're going to say add thing to item, but we don't want to add a thing. We want to add ramen, right? When we click on it, it's going to put ramen in our list. Then we're going to grab another add block, and we're going to say add the number 6 to price. Now, even though this is a price, you'll notice I'm not putting in a dollar sign. If we put a dollar sign in, so it says $6, Scratch won't be able to total up the numbers because it won't view them as integers or whole numbers. It will view them as characters because of that dollar sign, and it won't add up our total. So there's no need to put in a dollar sign. Just have the number 6. That's our price for our burrito. Okay, so that's setting up our list. Next up, for this sprite, we want to set up what we do so that we can subtract one item from the inventory, right? We buy a ramen, that means there's one less in our vending machine. So we're going to go and grab our change block from variables, switch it from burrito to ramen, because that's what we're working with. And we don't want to add one, we want to subtract one. So let's make it easy and just change that. So it says change ramen by -1. That means each time the ramen sprite is clicked, it's going to take away one value from the ramen variable. Okay, so that's working, but what happens when we run out of ramen? Well, first we cry, but we need to have something happen in our program too. So let's go to control. Let's grab an if block. And what we're going to do here is say what happens if the value of ramen equals 0. So We'll go to green operators, grab an equals block, drop that in the diamond, go to variable, grab the ramen variable and drop it in there. And then we want to change that 50 to 0. So if ramen equals 0, what happens? So in this case, if ramen equals 0, we want it to switch from the ramen costume to the not available costume. So we will go to looks, we'll grab our switch costume and change it to say not available. Then just for fun, we'll grab a say block, drop that in there, and we can have it say, we are out of ramen for 2 seconds. Okay, let's test it out. You know how much I love to test things out. Here we go. Green flag, click on ramen once. You'll notice we lost a ramen value. We'll click on ramen a second time. We now have 0 ramen. We have 2 in our shopping cart, and it's switched to not available. Awesome. So that was successful, right? Let's set the same thing up for burrito. Now we could type all this in again, or let's take our big block, drag it and drop it on burrito. And our when green flag clicked, drop it on burrito. Now when we switch over to our burrito sprite, we just need to do a little editing over here. Actually, I didn't need 2 of those, did I? We'll get rid of that one. So we've got when green flag clicked, set burrito to 2, switch costume to burrito, perfect. When the sprite is clicked, we don't want to add ramen to the item. We want to add burrito, and we'll change our price up a little bit. These are airport vending machine prices here, folks. Then we want to make sure we change, we're working with the burrito, we want to change burrito by -1. So we're just editing here, folks. I'm going to get rid of that ramen variable, go over here to variables, and say if burrito equals 0, switch costume to not available, and then say we are out of burritos. And I spelled that wrong. Don't turn me in. Okay, cool. Let's test it out again. So both worked, right? So we have our sprites working the way we want, changing the costume and also subtracting the value. But now we need to do some work with our lists and also to get the total working, right? So let's click on the checkout sprite and we're going to put it to work. So off we go to events, when green flag clicked. What we want to do is under variables, make sure that we set our total to 0. And then we want to go in and we want to clear out our lists, right? So we're not deleting the lists, we're deleting the contents of the list. So we're going to grab the delete all of item block. That's going to empty out the item list. We're going to grab another delete all of block, and we're going to delete everything that's in price. So now when we click the green flag, you can see it empties out our lists, which is fantastic. Okay, what is the checkout button's purpose in life? Well, we want it to total up our purchase, right? Whatever's in our shopping cart, we want it to total it up. So let's go to events. Grab when this sprite is clicked. So when somebody clicks the checkout button, what happens? Well, what happens is we need to have the program count through our list. until it has found everything that's in both of our lists. So that's where our item index variable is so important. So I'm going to drag over a set block from variables, change the variable to item index, and make sure that it's starting our count at item number 1 on the list. Now we want it to repeat this until it has gone through the whole list. So let's go to our control area, find our repeat block. But we don't want this to repeat 10 times. We want this just to repeat however many things are in our list. So we need it to repeat for the length of the list. Luckily, folks, if we go to the lists section, Scratch is already way ahead of us, and it has a variable called length of, and in this case, we want it to go through the length of the price list because that's what it's adding up. So if there are 2 things or 200 things in our price list, it's going to iterate, meaning repeat through those lists until it gets to the end of the list. It doesn't matter how long it is, it will iterate through the entire list. Okay, so what is it doing when it repeats? That's a great question. We're going to have it just add a value to total and then change the item index. So go to variables. First thing we want to do is grab our change block, but we're not changing burrito. We are changing total. And what are we changing total by? We're changing it by the value of the price for that item in our list. What does that look like? It looks like this. We need to replace that 1 with this magic variable that says item 1 of. And we want it to be the item from the price list, so make sure you switch it to price. But it's not item 1. What is it? You got it, friends. This is where we use our item index variable. And we're going to drop that there. So now it will look at the list called price, look at item number 1, and drop that in the total or add it to the total. Last thing we need to do then is to update it so it goes to the next number on the list. So I just need to go to variables again and grab a change item index by 1. And now it's going to add up those values by changing the item index by 1 each time it loops through or iterates through that repeat block. Let's test it out, see how we did. So we'll click the green flag. We'll notice our burrito and ramen values have reset themselves. Item index is 0, total is 0. I'm going to go get the 2 ramen out of my vending machine, put them in the shopping cart. I'm going to add the 2 burritos. We're all out of burritos and ramen now. And now I will click the checkout button, and our total has updated to 28 bucks. And we can make our purchase and go have a super tasty lunch. And once we hit that green flag, everything resets and we're good to go. Now you could go through at this point and hide your variables. We could put total down there. We could also, if you wanted to, go in and hide your lists so it looks a little bit fancier. The choice is yours, my friend. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it, and have a great day.